drive. We got a lot of rain yesterday, and mostly came in the afternoon and the evening, and so that's created quite a bit of fog this morning. I don't know if it's as foggy as it's just kind of misty and gray, pretty much like our winters are here in Michigan most of the time, which is, it's not good for me. But hey, tomorrow the sun comes out, full sun tomorrow, and sunny the day after that. So I can handle that. I wanted to today's drive. I want to talk about one of my favorite artists, and that is David Curtis. And I'm going to share some things that I'm learning from David Curtis. But first, I just want to give you a quick update on a couple things. One is, for everyone who made a comment about the last week's Tuesday drive, thank you for that feedback, and thank you for the reminder not to pay too much attention to thumbs down. I don't get a lot of those, so when I do, it causes me to really think about it and over-process sometimes. And I need to just learn to say, it's just an indication that video was not for someone. And, maybe it was that a thumbs down came in the first 10 views, and then there was an unsubscribe immediately after that, which is fine. It's probably someone who doesn't really understand how this community operates. So, but in all honesty, I was really just seeking feedback, and had made no decision to do anything really. But it doesn't matter. And I bet you're asking yourself right now, wow, he followed the first 10 views and knew when there was an unsubscribe, all in like a matter of minutes. And I'm always interested in the velocity right after I publish a video, like what happens. And so yeah, maybe I'm a little bit neurotic that way, where I do kind of follow it as soon as I hit the publish button, just to see what happens. But eventually I'll get out of that habit, I think, and because I'll probably start publishing at various times where I'm not even in front of the computer, because I've got some analytics now that kind of help me see when is the best time to publish. But before I digress into all of that and YouTube analytics and all that, which I don't want to do. The other thing is, this last week, I thought an awful lot about the topic of last week's video, and I came to the conclusion that Patreon doesn't really fit the personality of my channel right now, and I think it has more to do with me personally, and kind of how I view all of this. Maybe it's because I'm just a really generous person, and my preference really is to just give it all away. So good, bad, indifferent, that's just who I am. I've been following David Curtis for some time now, and for living impressionist, I would say David tops my list. And there's so many things that I get from him, but recently I've been taking a closer look, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. We'll look at paintings and artists, and but it's it's typically only on like a surface level until you really, I mean, I'll grab a book off my shelf but I sort of thumb through it magazine style, and I do that a lot, but it's not very often that I actually stop and really focus in on like taking a closer look and looking deeper, which is takes it takes some time, and you have to be kind of intentional about it, just because of the way I think we're just sort of wired this way, where we do tend to peruse things and view things in a in that just glancing style. Now I could be totally wrong. I might just be speaking for me, and maybe you always dive in deep when you're looking at other books that have paintings in them and stuff like that, but it certainly doesn't always work that way for me unless I'm very intentional about it. So I want to show you 3 paintings of his, and just to kind of show you what it is that I'm currently learning from David Curtis. The first one I want to show you is right here, and this particular painting, when you examine it from a distance, is it's just magnificent, but when you get in really close and you start to look at some of these different areas, first of all, David Curtis painted a lot into the light. So he's still alive. He paints a lot looking directly into the light. That's something that he does, and his paintings of stays, where he's like kind of up on a hillside and looking down a street or something that goes down towards the ocean, and when he paints those like even into the light, it's just amazing to me. And I don't know if you've tried this, but painting looking into the light is really hard, and it's not an easy thing to do, but he seems to do it with ease, and he does it a lot. So maybe those two things go together. There's some simplicity in this particular painting that I find really remarkable, and that's that this background is actually there are just these sort of silhouetted tones that are back there, and I can only think to myself, if I was painting this scene and I could see that building up on the hill in the background, how much of an attempt I would have made to bring out some of the detail in that building. But this is a great example of it's a supporting character, and maybe even a second or third supporting character, not the main character, and so it doesn't really require or need any detail at all. And as a matter of fact, the whole painting has, from a tonal standpoint, a lot of things are close in value. There's a lot of colors are actually really close together, but when you get to the light on the top of this boat on the right hand side, and you get to the light on the water, I mean, that's really the what makes this painting, in my opinion, just really, really work. And when you zoom in really close and you start to look at this, one of the things that I'm learning from him is that in his shadows, there are actually colors within the colors. And sometimes I'll lay down a shadow and I'll be just happy with the local color, a darker value of the local color or something, but this is my development, right? So I'll lay down a color, and then I'll just kind of walk away and let that go. what I've noticed is that there are shadows within the shadows, and there are, when you look at the highlights on this water, you know, it's almost like even his highlights have highlights, and which I think is like really cool. And you only get the sense of that if you take the time to look really closely at what's actually happening there. Okay, so painting number 2. There are these kind of grayish green, blue-green colors that are in the background, and the buildings and things again are very simple in the background, because at that distance, I mean, when you really think about it, you can't see a lot of detail in those buildings, and so he doesn't indicate them. And I love that the one on the left, you sort of you can tell we're on my favorite bumpy road here. You sort of just discover that one tucked in there, but the horizon area, which is not the actual horizon, but the one that we can see in front of us anyway, at the base of this hill, you've got that one stretch of grass that's catching some light, which does a really good job of pulling you back deeper into this painting. And the one I showed you before this actually has something very similar going on in the background, and that also does a good job of pulling you back there. But this one is kind of important, because take note of this boat in the very foreground here. That is the highest contrast of anything in the painting, because it's virtually black and white, really, really dark against a really, really light highlight. And that those boats in the foreground could have, if painted not as kind of loosely as the rest of the painting, your eye may not even get beyond those, but because of that bright green in the background, it really does a good job of keeping you from just getting stuck in this foreground and actually moving into the background and discovering the rest of the painting, like that little building off to the left that, when you first glance at this painting, you don't really see it, and you don't even really notice the size of the building on the right hand side. It's a pretty good size building. From a compositional standpoint, the mast of the right hand boat is actually falling right on one of the third cross sections of the painting, and I love the way this small boat down in the foreground just sort of points you in the direction of those highlights that are to the right of that boat. And then it's just the way your eye skips around this painting is just really brilliant. So I have some of David's videos, and this third painting, one of the things that I've noticed from watching him paint is the way that he always seems to keep the brush moving. It's not very often that it's just sitting idle with paint on it. It's almost like once he has paint on his brush, he has to find a place to put it, and so it's sort of like when you're first exposed to him painting, you would think it's like some type of a nervous condition, but it's really not. It's just he's in the process of figuring out where to put this paint, and sometimes it ends up in a lot of different places, and this painting illustrates the point I made earlier as well about how there are highlights within the highlighted areas, and there are portions of shadow within the shadows themselves. And in this particular case, I've kind of honed in on his use of cobalt violet, and it's really because of him that I put it on my palette. When you take cobalt violet and you mix it with all the other colors on your palette just to see what you're capable of creating with it, it's a very, very powerful and useful color to experiment with. And I fell in love with using it as soon as I started. But in this particular case, I thought it was amazing when I really focused in and started looking at all the different places where cobalt violet ended up in almost the same, as if he took the same value and chroma, and he just mixed it, and it's like he just dropped it in all of these different places in the painting. And I think the most amazing thing is that in every instance it works. And you may not get away with this with Viridian or something like that, but for cobalt violet in this particular case, and the mid-tone that it's mixed to, it actually works. It ends up on the hind quarter of this sheep in the foreground, and then this is actually a little bigger painting. I've zoomed in on just a portion of it. It ends up in the shadow of the building that's in the distance, and it ends up in the tree, and it's just sort of all over the painting. It's in the left-hand lower portion of the tree. It's in the right-hand shadow section of the tree, and this building that's in the distance that is sort of visible through that blue window in the bottom of the tree. Something very similar happens here, as did with the green fields and the other paintings, and that's that to pull you through that tree and into the distance, he drops some sunlight on that building, and so it's really quite highlighted, and it's just super effective. And so this beautiful darks and lights in this painting. And so anyway, I wanted to share some of these things with you, and just let you see what it is that I'm learning from David Curtis right now. And here's an interesting point, is that I've been looking at David Curtis for years, and maybe it's when it's all about where you are in your journey. Maybe you're not ready to receive information at a certain point, but at some point you will be ready. And so you can look at the same painting and yet receive it very differently because of kind of where you are and what you're thinking about and all of that. So I think that even though I've looked at these paintings a lot, I'm seeing things I've never seen before because of where I am in my own journey. So before you go, I did want to mention that I tried a live feed this last week, and I actually enjoyed it a lot. Once I got past kind of the figuring out the beginning technical things, it actually went pretty smooth, and it was a lot of fun. And so I'm going to continue that. And this week I'll actually announce it so that you'll have some heads up when I'm going to be live, in case you might be available to check it out. And I wanted to do it unannounced because I knew that 8 or 10 people who are part of the core community here would pop in and would show me lots of grace as I'm working through that. So if you were one of those people, I appreciate it. And I think I have things worked out now. Deb had a comment about can I show the color mixing. I'm going to figure out a way to do that. I think that probably adds a lot of value if I can show the So thanks for following along Tuesday Drive, and I will catch you later.